Hi. Over the years, you've gotten really good at reading for information, reading for the story. But reading analytically requires that you go below the general idea of a story and look at details that help you recognize claims that an author is making implicitly without saying it straight up, um, as well as the overall argument that an author wants you to walk away with. It also helps you see how an author is making that argument persuasive. In order to understand this a little more clearly, I want to look at the first few paragraphs of what I found in Standing Rock. And then you can take this same attention to detail and apply it to the next reading that we have. So here is the first paragraph. Near the edge of the Standing Rock camp in North Dakota, about 50 yards from a tributary of the Missouri River, there's a basketball hoop. It's one of those worn-out outdoor hoops that leans forward a little bit, almost as if the wind had bent it. Now I highlighted this first idea that Standing Rock Camp is very close to the Missouri River. What do you know about the Missouri River? Well, it's a pretty big river. Large rivers provide water supply. And so we're at Standing Rock Camp, which is very near a major water supply. If you've been paying attention to the news over the years, you know that there is a Dakota pipeline that is supposed to go in Standing Rock Camp, which is a reservation. And so if you have that information, you're paying attention in a different way. But even if you don't know those things, you know Standing Rock Camp is near the Missouri River. And Koenig will give you more information. He also says there's an outdoor hoop that leans forward a little bit, almost as if the wind had bent it. What does he want you to see? He wants you to see that this is a hard place, that the wind must blow very hard to bend a basketball hoop. He wants you to know this. This is what showing instead of just telling is all about. Making the audience aware of important details that lead to key ideas. In the next paragraph, Koenig tells us why he's there. In September, I drove from my home state of Wisconsin to the Standing Rock Reservation, land of the Hunkpapa Sioux. See, he's feeding you in case you didn't have that information. I got in after dark, so I didn't see the layout of the whole camp until the sun rose the next morning. When I unzipped my tent, I saw a valley full of Native people. Thousands of people camping out in tents, RVs, and teepees from over 300 tribes. There were license plates from almost every state. What does he want you to know? Well, he wants you to see what he's seeing for the very first time. And he wants you to know that thousands of people are here. And you might be wondering, why are they here? Why have they gathered? Why are they here from almost every state? And next paragraph, Koenig tells you. So he's expanding. He lets you see it, and then he lets you understand it. They'd come to protest the Dakota Access Pipeline, an underground oil pipeline being constructed less than a half-mile from the reservation. The tribe says the pipeline will plow through ancient burial grounds and could poison the reservation's water supply, as well as the water supply of millions of people downriver. Again, he's showing you. Before he showed you the camp was near the river, and now he tells you why that matters. I want to pause here before we move to the next paragraph. And I want to emphasize how from the very beginning, Koenig talks about water. Because one of his main ideas is that it is important to protect the water. He's also going to communicate it's important to protect native rights. But if his audience doesn't care about the native rights, he's saying they should care about the water. In the morning, I smelled burning sage, the plant used during Native American spiritual ceremonies. A woman walked by with a shirt that read, "This is our land," and a couple of kids on horses trotted past. Someone was giving directions to a communal kitchen, and generators were humming nearby. I saw some flags flying upside down, the signal for distress. I could hear Sioux singers and the unmistakable thumping of drums. It sounded like a battle cry. There's something wrong, and he wants us to know it. I left my tent and started toward the center of camp. Makeshift ceremonial grounds had been built, which reminded me of the ho-chunk powwows in Wisconsin that my mom used to take my brother Miles and me to when we were growing up. Detail. Now he's shown us that he is a Native American. Something you might not have known previously, you probably didn't know. But neither me, my brother, nor I remember very much from those trips. In those days, we didn't have any Native American neighbors. We were city kids. Our lives were basketball. Again, he's letting you know I was Native American, but I didn't understand what that meant. All I knew was basketball. Up above the valley where the Standing Rock camp sits, cars were speeding by on Route 1806, the state highway that leads north toward Bismarck. The pipeline was originally supposed to run through the city, but the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers rerouted it, in part because of concerns that it might endanger the local water supply. He's giving us this important detail. He's making a claim that the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers and the government care more about the city of Bismarck than they care about the indigenous people. So here we've got this emphasis that Koenig is making. And it's very important that we pay close attention to those details. Why those details matter? Because everybody knows that the pipeline could threaten the water supply. But the government doesn't care if it threatens the water supply of indigenous people. The indigenous people that may not even be aware of their culture. These details prepare you for what comes next. And that's why it's important to pay attention to the details. Ask yourself, why are they there? What is Koenig doing? Now he follows this up with several single sentence paragraphs. Just a few miles up the highway, a group of bulldozers were sitting on a hillside waiting. Soon those bulldozers, protected by armed guards, would start tearing up the land to make way for the pipeline. A longer paragraph, and then there it was, the familiar sound echoing off the dirt. Someone was playing ball. Think about it. Why have one sentence paragraphs? What are those doing? And what is Koenig's main argument? Is it about his culture? Because his culture is very important here. Or is it about some larger point? You can take a look at the article, particularly the end, how Koenig closes it. It is about the Native Americans. It is about the government mistreating them, and it is about the water. Combine those ideas, and you have the main argument. That's all I've got.